I use Morningstar Office. I spent a decent amount of time looking at what would be the best for my practice. And in this case, Morningstar Office gave me a good combination of value for the money. It wasn't that expensive. And it also had full features, and it had great research. That was one of the things. It has great research. They have a lot of commentary. And also it allows you to investigate almost any kind of portfolio, as far as it can be fixed income, equities, even annuities.
When I have a new client and I'm trying to establish a relationship with them, they might schedule a meeting with me through the scheduling app on my website. I use Schedule Once. There's a few out there, but I use Schedule Once and I like it. I add their contact information to CRM. Perhaps if they've told me a little bit about themselves, I've tagged some information in CRM about them, and maybe the size of the potential opportunity. And if we then have a consultation meeting, that could be in person or it could be virtual, where I might use a video conferencing type of software like Join.me or Google Hangouts. And then if they decide to become a client, then there's account opening, there's contracts to do, and I do almost virtually all of that using DocuSign.
I pretty much exclusively use as portfolio management Betterment for Advisors, which is the advisor version of the retail Betterment product. It also allows me to monitor the client's performance and portfolio. It allows me to react to client requests to move money in and out. It also generates messages to me when clients take action within the portfolio, and if that action requires a follow-up call, shall we say, I'm informed and I can make that. It's extremely simple to manage, it's extremely simple to explain to clients, and it has a number of tax optimization features. It rebalances automatically, it does not charge per transaction. The fees are very, very explicit and clear to the client up front, and almost without exception, I've had very positive feedback from the clients on that product. And just selfishly, it is extremely easy for me to manage as well, my end.
I use an online portal through a website called Right Capital. That has a vault feature where clients can save important information such as last year's tax return, a life insurance policy, information that is important to their financial plan but not necessarily part of their investments. They can save that information in the online portal, or they could save it to Dropbox. I also use Dropbox folders, and I can invite the client to a Dropbox folder. And both of those options are a little more secure than having the client email sensitive documents around. So once we've got a client up and running, I've gathered their information, we need to analyze their data and develop a financial plan. For analyzing their investments, I use a few websites. I use Quanti, I use Morningstar, and both create nice reports and give me the information that I'm looking for. And as far as financial planning software goes, I actually use both MoneyGuide Pro and Right Capital, and they're different. MoneyGuide Pro is goals based. Right Capital is more cash flow based and has more sort of budget information and some of the cash flow detail that I like to discuss with clients.
One of the things that all the vendors talk about is integration, and they all say they integrate with everyone, but when you get into it and you see what's happening, it doesn't really integrate that well. And so I'd really like to see really full-featured integration that's tight and goes from custodian to portfolio management system to financial planning software to other risk programs. The issue, I would say, is to figure out what you want out of a portfolio management system and make sure that covers it well. So for instance, some people are really into trading a lot. If that's the case, then you want to make sure that your portfolio management system does the trades well, or the billing, or the research. So they each have their pros and cons. Rebalancing is another one. You just got to make sure that that works out well for you.
I've test-driven a number of different models, including Right Capital, eMoney, and at different times, you can run into problems with one that don't exist with another. I would say those models that provide a client portal are ones that interest me the most, because I find clients want to interact with the portal. It also takes the pressure off me in terms of uploading data, because they're going to link their accounts to this portal, which means I don't have to sit and type this information in. Plus, it's dynamic. I can see at any given point in time what's going on there. So a robust portal is a must for me in terms of where I eventually settle.
Main financial planning service I use is MoneyGuide Pro. It's a cloud-based program, it's really robust, and it's a goals-based program. And clients really relate to the goal-based program better than they do a cash or budget-based program. So explaining it and getting clients buy-in using MoneyGuide Pro is definitely easier.
In general, a Schwab account, a Vanguard account, a Fidelity account, an E-Trade account, that group of options, the problems they have versus the platform that I have is that there's not fractional share or fractional ETF buying. So for instance, if somebody wants to put $200 into the Betterment account, it will allocate that $200 across all the ETFs that are in there, and that could be 8, 10, 12 ETFs. With an account whereby they have to buy individual ETFs, which can cost 80, 90, $100 per time, it's impossible to maintain, unless they put a very, very large amount in, it's impossible to maintain the ratio that we want. There's also, in a lot of these cases, charges for each transaction. And if you're encouraging clients to dollar cost average in over long periods of time, that can end up being expensive and almost defeat the object.
They all have their pros and cons. You need to really do your due diligence, both on the portfolio management system and on the financial planning software, because once you use them, you're going to stick with them for years. It's really hard to get out of them once you're in, so do your due diligence up front.
The only real parts of the relationship that don't somewhat involve technology is really the initial consultation, where you're talking about what services you can offer. One of the first things I will do when people decide to engage me is start inviting them to these different technology solutions.
The main thing there is behavioral coaching. I mean, there's no robo-advisor, no software that's going to talk your clients off the ledge when we're in a bear market. So, really, that's not going to be replaced. And, there's studies out there that says an advisor who's skilled at behavioral coaching and does all the other things can provide 3% value to their clients. So that really outweighs most programs you're going to use. Clients don't care what program you're using behind the scenes. They care about how you deal with them personally. I have Riskalyze up on my website, and it allows people to get a very quick survey of their risk. And some people relate to that very well because instead of giving you standard deviation, it actually puts the risk in dollar terms. So people relate to dollar terms. Losing $50,000 or $100,000 makes a lot more sense than a 4 or 5% loss.
It's funny, I actually think that CRM softwares, there's several options out there, but they're both overrated and underrated. So it just really depends on whether you use it. So I've used other CRM softwares and other jobs and such over the years and never really got good use and functionality out of it. I wasn't living in it constantly. The CRM that I use now is called Wealthbox, and it's a little simpler than some, but the result is that I actually use it and actually look at it all throughout the day. That tab is always open, and so to me that's really valuable, and so it's almost underrated.
I think CRM in general is overrated. I think a lot of us CRM looks backwards, and there are other technology solutions. I use one called Things, which is really a time management solution which looks forward, so I can actually put in, at our next meeting we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Underrated, for sure, the most underrated, I think, technology right now is micro savings technology, such as Digit, Capital, that's spelled with a Q. There's a newer one called Clarity Money. There's another one called Empower, which basically, and they all work slightly differently, but they scrape very, very small amounts of money out of the client's accounts in a fashion that they don't really feel. And at the end of the month, there's a dollar amount deposited in a savings account. What I will do with my clients is every month I'll talk to them about what is in that savings account and get a portion or all of it invested into the Betterment program.
One of the things I think is probably, I don't know if overrated, but over-touted is client portals. So it seems like every tool out there has a client portal, and you only need one, and they're not that complicated, and a lot of times you don't even need the one. So I would say that's probably the most, overrated thing, is everyone says, oh, we've got a portal. It's like, everyone's got a portal. As far as underrated, again, I would say, talking to the clients. I mean, it's easy, for some folks to get involved with the technology and only focus on the technology and generating reports and whatever. Most of the time, the clients want to hear from you. They want a very simple report. Most of my reports are 2 pages long, and that's it. So it's really about talking to the client.